Got you on the back row, phone screen glow, slow motion halo. You say hit that follow, next thing we're flying over cargo. Swipe up, then we lift off, both feet leaving this floor. Highway like a kick drum. You said you ready for more. Coley UFO, beat me up, let's go, whoa, whoa. Turn it up, dance on the stars, feel the cosmic drop. Coley UFO, we never gonna stop. Beat me up, you up there all night. Coley, shining extra bright. Top 10 hit, we're trending worldwide. Coley UFO, take me for a ride. Bring me up. Hands up in the main room, neon dust on my white shoes. You spin me like a typhoon. Lost track, but I'm locked on you. Baseline in my ribcage, oh yeah. Time warp when you say my name. You smile, then we time lapse. Two hearts in a hyperdrive lane. Coley UFO, beat me up, lights go whoa, whoa. Turn it up, dance on the stars, feel the cosmic drop. Coley UFO, we never gonna stop. Beat me up, all night. Coley, shining extra bright. Top 10 hit, we're trending worldwide. Coley UFO, take me for a ride. Spin me round the moon, low gravity. Every little move, new galaxy. Closer, you're my supernova. Countdown, 3, 2, I disappear with you. Disappear with you. Coley UFO, beat me up, lights go whoa. Turn it up, dance on the stars, feel the hype and drive. Coley UFO, we're never gonna stop. Beat me up.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of SNX Radio. I'm Coley Weber, also known as Coleyufo. But how is everybody doing this Sunday afternoon? I am very excited. The guest we have on, I'm very excited for. I know you probably heard me talk about him during the week and everything. He's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I just want to give a shout out to everyone in chat. I saw that was going. I was like, sweet Gary, Gary Spike, nice to see you. Nice to see you, Dennis. Welcome. Gary's always Blazer. Blazer is in the house. Blazer is Moon at Noon. Awesome. Look at everybody, like Andrew. Hey, nice to see you. Nice. I could keep going on like each of you for so long sometimes. I love it though. Thank you for all of your hard work. It's all greatly appreciated. And as of just to remind you, we have that Corey Good and James Gillian interview that's going to be on the 25th. So everybody who's got one of those wrenches and knows how to use it, please. We would really appreciate any extra support that we got that day. And that starts at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So yeah, I would say Midnight Night Watchers. Oh, Gerald and Jane, they're amazing. Chiru Sounds, of course. Great people. And Mad Paximus is in the house. Nice to see you, Mad Pax. Kurt W75, yes. Oh, wow. Kurt W75 is actually the first one to give me the referral to Steve Mera. So he's the one, he's like, have you seen him before? Have you? And he really like drew my attention to his work. So I am so appreciative of that, Kurt. Like, oh, Moon, thank you for the support and the super sticker. That's greatly appreciated. And again, Blazer, you are my cyber partner in crime, like my partner in crime, not literally, guys, but you know how they say your partner in crime. Well, that'd be Blazer. Anyway, without further ado, for those of you who have not been on a show with Steve before, he is so fascinating. He is just, I'm going to let Steve, I'm going to bring him on and I'm going to let him tell you exactly who he is because he's so well spoken. And it's not that I don't want to give you the best introduction in the world. I feel you're the best to do this for your, if you know what I mean. Like you're.
Well, thank you for having me on, Coley. It's always a pleasure to come back. Big shout out to Kurt as well. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, it's where did I start with this, really? I mean, it's interest.
You've done so much. You really have.
Of course, my interest has been since very young of age. I'm also experiencing things from a younger age. Gave me the opportunity to bench test it. You know, because if people having experiences out there, isn't it great if you're also a scientist? You know, gives you the opportunity to bench test some of this stuff and experiments and so on. It hasn't let up. I'm still an experiencer, but it's given me a leadway into the subjects of the paranormal, cryptids, ufological. I've done it all. I've done every single feasible subject, to be the ancient mysteries, cop circles, you know, disappearances, you name it. So
you really
I find a lot of all these, very many of these various phenomena connected in some ways. But I've done a lot of television work over the years. I've lost count of how many TV shows I've done. I've also done some acting. I'm also an author, quite a number of books, international lecturer. I'm on a number of international think tanks regarding certain subjects. You'd recognize some of the names on these think tanks as well. You've probably seen them on News Nation and other places like that. So
you have. I've looked into you thoroughly, and I was like, wow.
I do get to find out things, you know, of course. Sometimes, you know, unfortunately, I'm held by NDAs on some things, but I wouldn't join these or be part of these think tanks if I didn't think that information would actually surface one day. I'm not going to waste my time. You know, I back for the public, you know, and that's what people, even at the American agency end, don't really like so much. I've had conversations with them, or they've reached out to have conversations with me, should we say. But I've done parapsychological work, paranormal research, investigation, but it's more sort of the academic side, the science side, the advancing the subject side, experiments, which I've focused on for many years, which has led me into numerous different areas, opening new doors. And it's, yeah, I mean, if it was to land on me now, I'd probably be horrified. If it was just suddenly jump, you know. But the thing is, your bar gets raised over the years, and you start to be able to digest more than the average individual. And now I've reached
that's very true.
Nothing shocks me anymore, Cole. You know.
No, I get that feeling. Yeah. Oh wow. Yes. That's it. That's great that you pointed that out, because I said, you know, some things like in high strangeness and stuff. In growing up in childhood, it comes like this. Sometimes if you're from families where this type of high strangeness goes on, you might not necessarily, people might not understand this about it, but I get what you're saying. I absolutely.
Yep, you do. You just end up digesting more and more. Then you think one day, you shake your head and say, wow,
you know, no going back. Yeah.
How did it get to this point? You know,
I know. And then, you know, I said, I can't unsee, you can't unlearn. I just like,
I don't unsee it.
Man, I don't know what to do from that point on. Yeah, you're right about that.
Can't unsee it. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's a singularity, you know, it just kind of goes down. What do you think is probably, you know, in people hearing about this or in some of this, what do you think your best, you know, acceptance points are? Like, do you just embrace like some things like might be, because it's so uncomfortable at moments, like, is this really why, you know, when you start to come down and filter through to some of the reasons you're here?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, unfortunately, people are reaching out into the wrong places. I mean, YouTube is a hive of disinformation, you know, on a lot of places, and there's control mechanisms by a number of people. I'm not going to mention their names here, but you'd know them. in this subject that are providing disinformation, which are paid to do so. It's their job to do so. So that's going to cause some problems, and it causes this disruption in your belief pattern in regarding. But what I can say is that no matter who you're going to talk to or you're going to listen to on the internet, non-human intelligence is real. Absolutely, 100%. There is a them. 100%. They've always been them. They've always been here. You know, as we've transitioned through years and gained a better understanding about not just us, but we're thinking about, always talking about our place within the cosmos. Forget that, about our place here on Earth. It's always been here interacting, and now they've upped the game. And if you were to go back a few years till now, you're seeing that we've done a super elevation, that in the conscious minds of people in regarding this subject. Yes, it's certainly up its game. The thing is that phenomena seeks to be seen. It wants to be seen because there's a conscious connection when you observe phenomena. And I'm not just talking about UAP. I'm not just talking about non-human intelligence. I'm talking about cryptid phenomena. I'm talking about paranormal phenomena. It's the same mechanism. It's the same rule book. And then when I say rule book, you could actually, from the information I have, you could actually write a rule book. Some things they don't do, some things they do. They have patterns. There's mathematics involved. There's what you might refer to as paraphysics, which is not the physics of our understanding. We have to empty out that glass and put some of the new stuff in the quantum side. But we've got to wrap our heads around it somehow. But the thing is that their engagement is getting more, and that's because the belief in them is gaining more. And what we find is that people never had a UFO experience, never even went through their mind about UFOs until it was always on the news every single day, different news channels, documentaries, movies, films, and even kids.
Oh yeah, crazy.
It's the plant and the subconscious feed, and once that's in there, it's a weird situation with this phenomenon, because it looks for the conscious connection to establish with individuals which have that belief. So those people who had never seen anything never really believed in anything. And now, suddenly, when more people are believing in this, they're starting, wow, I've never seen a UFO before until I started watching the news channels and this, that, and the other. And the phenomena seeks to be seen. It wants to be seen. It flies in the night sky with beautiful, great big lights on, colors. It's like going to see the circus. It wants to be seen because it's conscious, it's sentient, and it knows it's observed.
I'll never forget the one I came in contact with, but my grandmother saw one. So in my mind, I believe my grandmother. And so I was always open and receptive to, they were real, which is interesting. But the first one, it interacted. We locked, what I call it, locked in. It anticipated me as much as I anticipated it. And it was just like an intense, I don't even know how else to describe it.
It's really weird, because years ago, people used to go out on what I refer to as sky watches, and it was quite excitement at the time. Let's go out for a sky watch. Let's see if we can see something in the sky. Sometimes we'd see stuff in the sky and we'd film it. A lot of people have done that. Where are we now? Well, we now know that sometimes when you go out and you observe a craft, that sometimes they can engage you. That engagement is gone from, say, probably about 3% till about 25%. It's certainly raised its game in regarding contact. Now, the problem with that is that we were unaware. We're unaware of what things happen during the conscious connection. Sometimes what happens is the phenomenon engages you. If it's engaging you in any form or any way, conscious connection is already established with the observer. In other words, it's like Bluetooth pairing with the individual. Now you don't know your Bluetooth pairing to it until we got something called flow bands. Now these flow bands, we fit them on the head, and it measures your brainwave activity to your cell phone, and you can watch your brainwave activity whilst you're awake, and when having this experience of this engagement. And when you have that engagement, something very strange happens to the brain. We start to slip out and drop into theta. Now, it's not normal to go into theta brainwave state in your waking conscious state. It shouldn't do that. I mean, theta's like daydreaming or going into sleep, coming out of sleep, hypnosis, those sort of things. But the brain is put into a manipulative state straight away so that it can easily create alter its perception, manipulate you, what you're seeing, feeling, hearing in theta brainwave. Now, we didn't know we're going into theta when we're having this until we got the brain waves measured at the time of the incidents, and then we realized. Now, some of these people which are having some of these very unusual experiences and come away with beautiful memories of these things, doing some tests on these individuals within maybe 12 hours of their experience, you'll find that they've been flooded with endorphins. And those endorphins cause a euphoric feeling. So now we're having confusion in regarding people saying, oh, it's love and light and I had a beautiful experience. And now we're thinking, okay, hang on a second. How many people have got false memory out there, which is implanted into the brain, which is what they do. And also in euphoric experience through the endorphins being boosted at the time of their experience. So the phenomenon is very, very clever. It knows what to do. But I've tried to talk with people and say, look, if you've had a nice experience, leave it. Do not go and tamper with this. Don't go there. And they chose to ignore me, gone and had hypnosis, and realized the initial memory, which they wanted to find out more about this euphoric, lovely experience they had.
Oh, no.
It never happened. They were upside down. They had no clothing on, almost upside down, tipped at an angle of 0.45 degrees. They were screaming out for Jesus and God and all those wonderful things that they would scream out in panic to see if they could be saved. They're inducing pain, incredible pain during certain procedures, and the reason it doesn't make sense. Some of the procedures that they've done, even in the 1980s, your doctors at the hospital could do that procedure with little discomfort to you, and yet they don't care. They don't care about avoiding discomfort. And they sometimes have said things like, I'm sorry if you felt some discomfort. This was to a woman that almost lost her eye because it was almost burnt out. There are lots of terrible things that happen in this, in these scenarios. However, if people do have some type of nice experiences, they've been very lucky. I'm not going to disjudge the fact that people might have some nice experiences. I'm sure that they could do. But what I will do is certainly question some of them as to the sincerity and the authenticity of what their memory is and their feelings towards the objects, these an NHI, because that is where it starts to have certainly confusing different matters turning up. You can't work it out, until you start digging. And I say, look, I don't dig anymore. I don't want people to remember something that they don't want to remember. I say, let sleeping dogs lie. If you feel you've had a good experience, brilliant. But a lot of people are actually become initiated and start working for them unknowingly, gathering the forces, taking them out on C5 expeditions and stuff like that, because the phenomena wants to do that. The more it's got its flock, the more powerful it becomes. It's referred to as homage and worship, and it goes back to the ancient days, and it still runs on the very same mechanism of today. It's a very strange phenomenon. We really got to get our heads around, to be honest.
That well, you just said, I am sitting back here. I want to find the words for this really quickly, because I think you just nailed like so much of it. So are you saying that the phenomena, like we're engaging it, right? So to some degree that we're entertaining it, that's what's happening here, that this.
Well, I think what's happening, Coley, is like, if you just want to look at ourselves, you were probably initiated at a younger age. I was initiated at a younger age.
Yes.
It takes you from the path that you were probably going to go on to this path. And now we speak to hundreds, if not thousands of people, you and me. We're passed the word on. Those people become interested in the subjects and go out and start observing the phenomena, and the phenomena likes it because it's rewarding to the phenomena. We're working for them, unpaid. I'm going to put a bill in for it.
Yeah, right. Okay, I get this. I'm following you. I just needed to hear you say this again because it was so profound. I'm like sitting here and I am like so cool. Yeah, I'm like listening to every every single word that's coming out of your mouth, because it stopped me in my tracks. So please continue.
It's the way it is. You know, people. I mean, my efforts is drawn a lot of interest, but like I've explained to other researchers I work with, you've got to be in that circle. You've got to put your foot in that, dip your toe into it, to expose it, because that's what my job is to expose. It's to lay the information out, the truth, nothing but the truth, and you decide what you want to do. That's it. But as long as I can put the information out, if I get one person that comes to me and says, Steve, I can't believe it, you know, I've took your advice, it's really helped, or it's changed my life, and I don't, you know, and I've decided not to go ahead and do certain things. I've had that. That's my fuel. That's what, you know, that's what I'm here to do. That's the most rewarding for me, if I can just help one person in regarding these matters, because I was really shocked when I started down this road of NHI and communications experiments, how many people were contacting me saying about they're having these problems. I didn't realize, you know, but there's a lot more now than I initially thought, to be honest. And they're looking for answers. They're looking to try and get out of a situation that they've been tempted to get into. And it can be problematic. And some of these things become very latchy, should we say, needy. They have a little hook. They get under the skin. They follow you back home. They infiltrate your life. You know, they affect you and your loved ones and things like that. So, yeah, there can be, you know, some downsides to this. But at the same time, look, it's not been a walk in the park. You know, I might have done 42 years, but yes, I've woke up with blood all over the bed. I don't know where it's come from. It's got to be mine, I assume. You know, I've been wrestled in bed with things. You know, it was a grab me, come through the mattress, grab me. I've been thrown around. I've walked to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Okay, it's dark, because I'm not scared of the dark anymore. Become numb to it. I'm bumped into one, you know, on my landing. I've had all sorts of too many things to, and that's because of what I do. You know, so yes, it can come at a cost, but it's the only way I can expose it is to learn and tell people what I've learned, and hopefully they don't go down the wrong path, because some people sometimes.
So wow. Hey, let's back up this training. So you're saying all these things that we're doing and clearing ourselves of, you let into a certain degree to see
to some degree.
Yes, you're right.
But you know, it's not good.
Wow.
You know, that's why I live quite a bit of a sheltered life.
Well, yeah.
You know, because I'm always concerned of people. And you know, I'm very selective about the people that are involved in my work, that come with me or do certain experiments. But it seems like they've been on the same path as me, because I'd never open it up to somebody unless they'd already been there and know it. And this is why I've worked with, you know, a number of people over the years, which are equally doing what I'm doing, trying to expose them for what they are, and just telling people, look, be careful, you know, because it's not all wrapped up like a pretty Easter egg. You know, sometimes at the core, it's not good, and it might lead to something. Because, you know what, I've talked to people who said, oh, well, you know, my brother passed away when I was young, and I've been communicating with my brother for 27 years. I said, have you? He said, yes. I said, and how's things been? Are you talking with your brother, communicating with your dead relative, your brother? Well, you know, he tells me little things and this, that, and the other, and he's been helpful. He's been guiding. I said, okay. I said, well, here's a few questions which I'd wrote down, and I said, well, just ask him this. Those questions triggered something in what he was communicating with. It turned out he wasn't communicating with his brother. He was communicating with something that had been pretending to be his brother for 27 years. He was absolutely mortified, this guy. And he was upset and crying and saying, I can't understand, Steve. How can they do that for 27 years? I said, because that's what they do. You know, 27 years is nothing to them, you know, and to keep it going. He was absolutely mortified, poor guy. You know, I do understand people have these experiences of communications with, maybe call them spirit guides and stuff, but the problem is that the phenomena can mimic. It can mimic anything. You can mimic an angel. It can only recently, and I talked to this on, I put this out recently because I didn't think people might know, is that the Vatican released a document called the Norms document, and it was sent out to all the priests that they have, the Vatican around the world. The Norms document was a warning for the priests to be notified to inform their flocks that there is a mimic, that there is something out there mimicking now even religious apparitions.
Oh, I knew it. Wow. Yeah. I saw that you did that. I was like, good for you. That's
and then they sent out a warning, and people need to know this. I mean, just because you might think, oh, it's the Mother Mary, it don't necessarily mean it's the Mother Mary. This is the problem we have. So the best guardian, because people, once they realized that, started asking me questions, Coley, it was like, well, what do we do? And I said, well, the best thing is to ignore all. Do not accept anything, because you can be deceived. It says it in the Bible at least 60 times, including the apostles, which have referenced it, about deception. Fire in the sky deception as well. There's another thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming for a while. And then to see that released with Travis, I was like,
this is what we're seeing.
Yes. The deception.
This is what it is. And I've said to people, just don't engage with any then. Even if you think it could be, do not. Because they are masters of deception. And if the Vatican are concerned about it, we should be concerned about it.
Yes, we should be. It's not necessarily like, I'm not saying go buy any, but you have to watch. I said the best way is to infiltrate those groups. If you want to know what other groups are doing and any type of thing, we become one of their groups, and we, would report back. That's what they do to us. I'm like, till you start to know it and understand it, like, just don't write it off completely here. You really do.
There's just many lies out there.
Yes.
I mean, I ain't questioning at the moment that they've even got NHI, because the government's always saying, oh, yes, we've got biologics. Well, that's a clever wording, because biologics are things that could attach to the side of a rocket whilst orbiting around Earth. They're biologics. So, yes, they've got biologics. It's a clever wording technique without lying. It's called, it's misleading the public. I count it. I mean, how do you contain a biologic entity and then an NHI? How do you can walk right through your wall? So
right?
How do you contain one? They can connect with your mind, and basically they can freeze you, stop dead. You wouldn't even know you're doing it. You'd lose your mind.
What about the thoughts on locking him in a crystal cave? That's one of my techniques. Does that work? But then you'll never find him again. Is that what you kind of saying?
Well, the thing is you can't contain NHI. I just can't see how method of being able to contain them. So good luck to that. What about all the equipment that's on these UFOs? Well, according to the people that I've talked to, there's no control surfaces inside these crafts. Even Bob Lazar said that, and he's only half involved, not as much as we think he is. But
exactly. Steve. Wow.
Oh, I know.
I love it. You're right on.
Well, all you got to do is talk to people I know. We know SIR, and the office. These are the people that work for Blue Book, and they worked at the place where they worked. And if you talk with them, they'll give you details. It's very helpful.
Well, if you were to talk about Travis and all this going on like last year, you would have been hung by the. But I've known this for a couple of years now, even with all that. But it's not even like there's a certain percentage of people that know, and it's like. Still not,
there's no equipment. There's no. Well, you might have a couple of chairs. Fine, that's it. Okay, you might have a couple of seats for the biologics to sit in. Okay, so where's your machines? Where's your technology? You keep saying you got all this technology. Where is it? What is it? Well, according to the information that I have, there was no machinery. There was no computers. There was no this, that, and the other. There's no guidance system. Why did they not have any of that? Because they don't need to, because the craft is sentient and directly associated with the people that fly it. They're the experts, not us. And at the end of the day, you don't need all the little red buttons and green buttons. That's for us. Right. So if you do come across something like that, then it's human manufactured. Yes, we've got some wonderful toys out there. And some of them you wouldn't be able to recognize the difference. an observation on some of these things we've got now. But the thing is that we've got to understand the methodologies of this. Is that the craft is designed, the craft is part of the phenomenon. It is not a vehicle to carry the phenomenon in.
No, I could never understand that, because when I came in contact, I was locked in. I said, it is not separate. There's nothing aboard it. It is what it is. Yeah. Like, it is of itself. Like, I couldn't even, I believe that. I do.
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And this is why we're trying to fit our physics into theirs. It doesn't work. And this is what you refer to as transplacement. Because when I got into experiments of working in an effort to understand the physics that the phenomenon utilizes, it didn't. It was basically, Eric Davis has recently had an interview with Wiseman. Weinstein, and together they were in a bit of a heated conversation about UAP studies. And Eric Davis confessed, well, the people on the inside dealing with the UAP programs, they don't use physicists. What? You don't use physicists? Well, yeah, I believe it. People are asking,
I believe it.
Why do you not need a physicist? Because there's no physics that we can put to it. It's pretty obvious, really. You don't take if you want to understand better, take a parapsychologist, take a spiritualist, take a medium. Take somebody in occult rituals. They will probably have a better understanding than the physicists dealing with this sort of stuff.
So true. That is just so true.
Absolutely.
I've said it before, yeah.
Yeah, but the transplacement phenomenon is incredible. When you start to realize that when dealing with NHI, experiments that have been carried out, some of which we've done ourselves, it'll just blow your mind. I mean, I've had my mind blown again and again and again so many times with witnessing things. It just cannot. It takes a while. I've had a few sleepless nights. When you start to realize that they can place images onto photographic film. The funny thing is, though, is that the film was still in its container and wasn't loaded into the camera, and yet they placed it on there. They also placed recordings onto a recording system. And the recording of it has a frequency of 16.8 hertz. It's below human hearing. And yet the equipment, which is only designed to record from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, which is audible human frequency range, captures it and you can play it back. And you think to yourself, well, how the equipment can record something beyond its parameters? Because it's not recorded it, it's transplaced onto it. And it's the same thing as the camera film. That's transplaced onto it. It doesn't need the mechanism. The physics it's not necessary. The old radio communications with instrumental transcommunication with NHI. They put it into a big Faraday cage. No signals will get in and out. Didn't stop them. So they decided to go into the radio and take out the old tubes. So now the parts aren't in there. Try it now. Didn't stop them. Because it didn't rely on the mechanism. Yeah, it's like me saying to you, well, how come I take half your engine out your car, but it'll still run? Because really, you think it needs an engine, but it doesn't. And this is the phenomenon. What it does break all the physics. Yeah, and we're pieces of equipment. How many times have people out there said, I've just heard something call my name over my shoulder? And you think to yourself, maybe I'm going a bit crazy. Did I really hear that? Well, what happens when it happens to 2 people or 3 people? Well, they've got recorders on, but the recorder didn't record it, so it's not harmonic. So how do you hear it? How does your ears hear it if it's not? Because ears only hear harmonic frequencies, but it doesn't, but yet we hear it. Well, that's because it was transplaced into here. Now, that transplacement is the same thing as saying telepathic communication from NHI. It's the same thing. It's transplacement in here. It's the phenomenon is just called something, the name of it's called transplacement in parapsychological terms, but it's telepathy when it comes to UAPs and NHI stuff. And then here's a mind blower. What about it's a physical object? Could be anything. It doesn't matter. Could be this glass, this drink. Okay. And in fact, one of these tests was a real glass. And we placed it on the side, on the table when we're conducting the experiment, and NHI moved it across the table, and it stopped. And then we heard a communication about moving it back, so we moved it back. And then it did it again. And it did it for 3 times. And then on the 4th time, when it asked us to do it again, we went to pick it up, and you can't pick it up. It's there. You can see it. You can cast light off it. It'll cast a shadow, but it's not physical anymore. And yet it's in our environment to see. They can break our reality, our understanding. They can manipulate reality. And this is why UAP can 1 minute be there on radar, and the pilot's seeing it. And then the next minute, it's not on radar. And the radar team are talking to the pilot as it disappeared. And he says, no, it's still there. Still right in front of me. Well, it's gone off radar. All they've done is they switched it into, they switched the physics off. They're basically not physical anymore. But we still see them. Like we see UFOs go into water and they don't leave a wake because they're not physical. It's traveling at 1,200 miles an hour. It enters the water and it's still traveling at 1,200 miles an hour without inertia of water hitting it because the water isn't there for it because it's not physical. Trying to get people.
So it can go into ghost mode. Is what you're saying?
Ghost modes. It's the same thing as paranormal phenomenon. It's a ghost mode. Yeah, it's the same subject.
Okay. Oh, wow.
They've got that. And the thing is that they can switch that at will. When they want to land and leave physical marks, just like Bigfoot, of course they can. But then when it wants not to be physical, just like Bigfoot, you're following the prints and all of a sudden it's half a print and it's gone. You think, well, there's snow all around. Where did it go? It's the same metaphysical aspects that they're utilizing across the whole board of the phenomena. Because I'll tell you what I know from what up at the top is what they're not saying. There's a source, and that source is associated with cryptids, the paranormal, UFOs, and other stuff. The same source is delivering a mechanism of varied phenomena, but the source remains the source, and it utilizes the same mechanics. Now, what's behind the source, we don't know. But John Keel, a very well-known researcher over the years, he concluded in his latter days, he recognized the source. And he believed the source is God. Well, people have said to me, that don't make sense, Steve, because why would God do bad things? I don't know, I said. But if you want to go to the Old Testament, if you want to read the book about Isaiah, God says, I am the good, I am the bad, I am the evil, I am everything, I am all, I am the Lord. That's what it says. Well, if you want to believe God say that, then God delivers the bad stuff as well as the good stuff. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But there is a source, and that source is, we start to see the mechanism after all these years. You start to realize, hang on a sec, that's the same as this. No wonder the governments wanted us to compartmentalize it. So with paranormal guys, the ghost guys are over there. The UFO guys are over here. I mean, the Bigfoot guys
are we're inventorying it out for them. Yeah.
Nobody's talking with each other. Nobody's doing nowhere. And they can't figure it out until they go and look in that other camp. And they go, hang on a second. I sussed it. But I had to come out of the paranormal into UAP to suss it. All the other way around. So collapse all the boxes and look at it as a whole, you start to realize, hang on, there's a really interesting mechanism here at play.
Wow. Wow, this is so very possible, and it makes so much sense when you say it like that. It's just like, I think of the video games that are programmed now, like
it's a bit like it's like putting a VR headset on. It is.
Right, like I might go through the land of whatever, but another person's gonna choose like whatever way. It's just kind of like it just appears a little bit different. Oh wow, that would make so much more sense.
Imagine this, Coley. Wow. Imagine this. Imagine that our world, you, me, are inside that game in the VR, and they come in with their VR headsets, come in into our reality. And we're trying to understand them. That it's the other way around. We are not at the top of the chain.
I know.
It's the other way around. They can manipulate our very reality because they are outside and operate outside our physics and our reality. And this is why they can manipulate it. This is why people have Oz encounters, walking down the street, see a large UFO in the sky, family of 3, daughter, mother and father. And they see this giant triangular object and they couldn't believe it. They were on a busy street. They were going shopping. It was a Saturday afternoon. And they're looking up, and all of a sudden, whilst they're looking at this, they notice that everything had gone quiet. Suddenly, they draw their eyes away from the UFO, and they're looking around. They're still on the same street, but there's no cars. There's no people. There's just them. And then they have the encounter, which they didn't really want. But then suddenly after that, they're put back exactly where they were, but suddenly there's people and suddenly cars. It's like they just took you out of reality and put you in the next area, which is identical without the people.
Right?
You can't begin to fathom and understand the mechanisms behind this phenomena. And they want to disclose this? Not a chance, because they won't disclose it because, A, we cannot and do not and have no way of defending ourselves against these objects if we wanted to. We have no way of controlling the skies. The phenomena can be right under your nose at any given time of the day when we can't do nothing about it. It interacts secretly and covertly like a CIA agent. It doesn't want to disclose. Otherwise, we're pushing for disclosure, and the phenomena doesn't want to be disclosed. If it wanted to be disclosed, we'd all know, but it doesn't. It operates in the darkness and in the shadows, like it always has done. But then it puts on a beautiful show in the sky to capture its audience because that's what it needs. It's a parasitic phenomena, and the more.
So what about that adrenaline that gets, because there's an experience? I said, and this would make this, we cannot just wipe the, you have to check into this. There's more to it because there's like I say, the locked in, the energy, like those adrenaline, like all that. Is that a part of something that, because you just don't see it for all of them?
Well, NHI can walk in. Most NHIs walk in from the back, from behind in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just wondering, like that excitement or that like euphoric feel that you got from seeing a craft wasn't more than just obviously
well
seeing
it could
it
be. I mean, don't get me wrong, it can be exciting for people, so sometimes it might be a natural element to that, and they know
people get like way excited, like it's the best thing they've ever
sometimes the phenomena knows how to trigger people. For sure. They know our cat. You know what, can you imagine me saying to you, look, here's a pet animal, here's a cat, you've got 100,000 years to know everything about that cat, how it ticks, its biology, its chemistry. Do you not think with the advanced technology that they have that they couldn't do that? Of course they do. They know us better than we know ourselves, and they know how to press the buttons. When people say, I woke up in the bedroom and I couldn't move, I was paralyzed. Well, you can go either way with that. Well, it could be, do you mean like it was a paranormal incident? It was a smoky apparition, or a shadow figure, or somebody there. Oh yeah. Or is it, right, so there were small beings in the bedroom and there was a light coming through the window, so it's more UFO or ufological type. Yeah. Or was it more incubus, succubus, night terror, demonic type stuff? It could be that then. But the same mechanisms there. But why? Because every single night when we go to sleep in REM, we spend about 20 minutes in REM every night. That's what the body needs. But unfortunately, we spend about 8 hours trying to grab it. We grab a minute here and 30 seconds there. And, it's funny when you record yourself in bed, how much time you're moving around. Because when you're moving around in bed, you're awake. You're in a form of state. You're either hypnagogic or hypnopompic. You're in a form of state of being almost awake. When you're not, you're paralyzed. Your body puts you into input and output blockade. Input blockade means that you don't hear anything, you're deaf. And output blockade means that you're paralyzed and can't move during REM. And these are switches in the mind, in the brain. They're just electrical impulses. So when you come into our bedrooms and at night, they just apply the same electrical impulses in our brains and we can't move. We're paralyzed and we think it's them physically doing something. No, it's just us. They're making us do it to ourselves. They know us very, very well, Coley.
Wow. But they know everything, and that is just it. If you know anything about the phenomenon, like it knows you're coming days before you know you're coming. It knows you. It knows your weaknesses. It knows every.
It does.
Yes. Oh yeah.
It knows ahead of you as well. I mean, the thing is that when we we got into experiments with NHI communications, and it's built upon the backbone of the skull experiments that took place in the UK in the 1990s. It's probably the most significant experiments in the world that have ever been conducted in regarding communications. And we built our experiment, which was Phenomena Project, on the back of that. But we really wanted to focus more in the communications of NHI, and we achieved it. But it took us a long time to achieve it. It took us about nearly 2 years to achieve it, to get your right circle, because it was seance initiated. You've got to have the right thing. Now, the thing is that we measure the success rate. We open it up to the general public, and we measure the success rate. And eventually, after 2 years, you find that you've got the right 12 people. Now, it's not us picking the people. The phenomenon's picking the people. Because sometimes when you like an individual, the success rate goes higher to you eventually. So it's them picking those individuals, not us. And then it leads into communications with NHI. When once you push through the barriers, you got to ignore the poltergeist type stuff and just keep pushing. Eventually you get to the NHI communications, and that starts getting very interesting, because sometimes when they're verbal and coming out of the air, they're neither male nor female, and they have an electronic sound a little bit to them, which is understandable.
Okay, so I'm asking. So they have a layer of really nasty things that they try and scare people. Because I remember when I was trying to do this out of like OBE thing, and it was like the skeleton lady, and I didn't care though at that point. I thought, I'm getting out. Are these like tactics that they use, like layers of? Okay.
They're all archetypes. I remember a document coming out from the government, Pentagon. I had a bit of a giggle at this. It was about maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And they said, oh, yes, we recognize that there are 4 types of aliens. And that really made me giggle, because they're not. It's okay to say aliens. They might be, wow, that's really alien to our understanding. They're not saying extraterrestrials anymore. They're saying interdimensionals. But 4, no, add an extra, they make that 4,000, over 4,000 variations of the archetype, and they keep growing, or even pretending to be a dead relative, a past relative, which they have done and been involved in that, or strange cryptids. How many cryptids are there? There's hundreds of the damn things, and people think, oh, no, there isn't. There's only Bigfoot. No, what about Dogman? Oh, yeah. What about the Mothman? Oh, yeah. What about the Owlman?
Man, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then you end up going on and on and on. You end up with a catalogue of hundreds of just cryptids alone. What about the ET type? Oh, well, there's thousands of variations of those. These are all archetypes. In other words, what it does, it takes the measure of man or woman, as we say. The phenomena basically does a very, in milliseconds, scans you. Zoom. It knows what your perception and what your cognitive limitations are and your abilities are, and it works out, what should I be? Well, sometimes children see animated toys. It's not their animated teddy coming towards them. It's something else. Some people might see something completely different. Some people are really shocked and terrified by some of these skeleton women, gestures, demonic things that look demonic, but they're all, it's like somebody, it's like it's going, right, I've got my little book here, let me see now, who shall I be? Ah, yes, I'll be this. And that's what people experience. But how do we know that? Well, we know that because people have refused to understand the mechanism of what they're seeing, and the archetype has changed in front of them to become something else. This has been reported many times. So we're not seeing the true face of this phenomenon. Does it even have a face? Because all I can come up with now is that the balls of light, which we see in paranormal phenomena, the balls of light that we see associated to cryptids and even Bigfoot, the balls of light which we're seeing across crop circles, the balls of light that we're seeing in the skies of UAP, could be the true face.
Oh my God.
That's the true face of the phenomenon, I believe. It's a predecessor to manifestation. How many UFOs are seen in the sky? Physical craft, but then there's a ball of light.
Mine, the first one I saw broke off into 8 orbs, like light orbs. When I was a medium, the first thing that they said before I channeled, what did I see? A flash, a bright light, just like they said it was a seed. You're right. You are right.
Yeah.
Oh,
there was a recent video. There's a recent video that came out by the Pentagon with a Hellfire missile hitting one of these objects. I don't know if you saw it, but it was an interesting piece of footage. It was apparently a Hellfire missile hit it, and it's a 3-part splinter off. And I thought, okay, so they're saying 3-part splinter off. Let me have a look at this video. Well, it was a big ball of light, and this Hellfire missile, which should explode upon impact, it didn't. It's just like a collision of 2 cars in the street. It just boom, bumped it. What come off that object? 3 orbs. 3 orbs came off that object. And they're saying, oh, it splintered off, and the little pieces splintered off. Yeah, orbs splintered off, 3 of them. And the main one just carried on. You know, I think there's a predecessor.
Yes, they are too. They are too. Oh, wow. Like, wow.
It could be, Coley, that could be the face of the phenomenon. You know, it doesn't have a face. So what's it do? It interacts us on a humanity's level, by creating something we can identify. This is why the scientists always argued, if we're going to see alien life like that, it only takes microscopic change on the planet to make massive change in living organisms. They are not going to have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, a mouth. But they do. Well, that doesn't make sense. That's what they were saying. It doesn't make sense, and that's true. It doesn't. You know, if you wanted to see, look, just go to the bottom of the North Sea on our own planet. We'll see something truly alien looking. Look, and that's a minute environmental change compared to some of the planets. And the thing is that no, because they're archetypes. It doesn't know how to deal with us, so it deals with us in the ways of being archetypes. You know, avatars in a sense of speaking.
Yes.
And that's what's crazy about it. You know, I've got case files of these balls of light in a nunnery in France, traveling down at night about 20-25 miles an hour down these corridors. Zoom, zoom. The nuns are seeing them when they're up all night in prayer. They take a bend, turn the corner very fast, and they end up going into this one particular room where these 2 nuns who are having these experiences. Out from that ball of light comes a small being. And they did not have good encounters, you know, but they became the ball of light again before traversing off. You know, sometimes they go right through the walls or came through the ceiling.
I have a case. A guy that has brought it. I should put him in contact with you. He's getting them, and the orbs that are coming in, he thinks he's identified. There's something totally different. I've seen him. I've seen the footage. It's the interactions. I mean, are crazy, but I look back and all the UFO stuff, I used to call them light bulbs and light balls, and someone's like, you have to call them spheres. That's very unprofessional. I said, that's what they look like, glowing light, but the orbs just bigger and of a different kind. I think you nailed, nobody can deny orbs. The orbs come along with it all.
Yeah. The evidence points to that. When you do the studies, you realize after a while, well, they've always been associated. You know, the light phenomena is associated with everything. You know, I mean, we talk to people who have traumatic paranormal experiences. Well, how did it start, Mrs. Smith? Well, we see this apparition. Right, and was that the first incident? No, it started off with a few balls of light. Really? Okay, interesting. I don't say about it to people, but then it's the same thing regarding UFO stuff and even cryptid stuff. Cryptids, you know, talk to Bigfoot guys, you know, and you think, well, I've seen balls of light. And in fact, we've got people now who are saying that the Bigfoot itself crouched and turned into a ball of light and shot off at high speed. It just... You know, that these archetypes are not always physical in our environment, you know, and that is why Bigfoot people are trying to track and hunt Bigfoot, and it's playing the games with them, leaving physical prints, but it's a metaphysical aspect to it, and so it becomes quite a problem.
I can see now, like, you know, we've all been wasting our time here. Maybe this is enough compelling evidence to shift our focus onto the fact. I mean, everybody's going out and feeding this is basically, and with each, and this is more of the collective on how it's going. We're going to make it weirder and weirder and weirder.
That's exactly what we're doing. If you look at the cryptid encounters with dogmen now, I mean, there's been incidents. There's been quite a number of incidents in Ohio recently, but they're crazy. You know, they pursue people as if they're a predator. Well, if you see a dogman looks a bit like a werewolf, You know, people are seeing these things, and they're old. They're not new phenomena. It's been going on for hundreds of years, these things. In fact, in about 1500 AD, there was a big debate if these creatures had a soul. There was a big debate. There was a paper on this about, do they have a soul? They debated if these things have a soul. Not that they're debated if they're real. They're debating if they have a soul. And that was like 1500 AD. So they've been around for a long time, these archetypes. And the thing is that they're pursuing people. So they think, well, if it's like a dog man, then it's like a dog, then it's like a wolf. It's a predator. And when it catches me, what's it going to do? Well, what does any predator do when it captures its prey? It doesn't end well. Let's just say that. And what's it do? It chases, it pursues, it's scaring the living daylights out of him. It's going extra crazy with the growling and the claws, and it's big. If people have fallen over, running away from these things, and next minute it's over them, and they just curl up in a fetal position, because that's what the brain does. It's when the brain accesses the fact that, okay, that's it, my game's up, and I've had it now. They just accept the fact and lie in a fetal position. It's some type of mechanism that takes over.
No, it's true. I tell you, when I was a little kid, I drove with the guy died while driving the car. Thought we were dead. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat in the back. I just accepted it for what it was. It was. Yeah. There was no.
That's what this person did.
Yeah,
you know?
I believe that.
That's it. My game's up. Well, if you're going to get me. Well, it didn't, because he couldn't fear anymore beyond terror. That was it. He stood there, and it's a meal ticket. You pursued me. There's your meal ticket. It just ran right, okay, and ran off. The whole point of the pursuit is because there's fear-feeding parasites. Now, if you want a non-physical feeding parasite, it's the poltergeist phenomena. The poltergeist phenomena is a fear-feeding parasite of non-physicality. The dogman is a fear-feeding parasite of physical. It's just one. Oh, I'll be this then. You know, it's just the same phenomena, but one's made physical and the other one isn't, in a sense of speaking. You know, and I've learned how to look at the mechanisms, the mathematics, and things that are involved, and it is pretty interesting that a lot of these things have commonality between them all.
Oh yeah, no, it's not even just interesting. I really think you're onto something, and I'm. That's where I think what we just briefly had talked about before of a way of counteracting. I don't know. It just kind of like everything's clicking that you're saying, and I didn't see myself ever coming down this road and having this new awareness as of right now, but it just hit me like, I mean,
well, wow. I'm not gonna be around forever, and it's good that, you know, people are gonna pick up that and carry on with stuff, you know, because we need to advance this subject and try and learn more about it. And when people say we do live in a magical world, we truly do. You know, and yet there are people out there that are mundane. They just go to work, keep their heads down, never ask any questions, never look up into the sky. I'm not one of those people. You know, for the short time humans are around on planet Earth, you, me, and everybody else, surely we deserve to question why we're here and where we are and the world we live in. You know, because like I say, it's a very short speck of time, and it goes faster as you get older. And you know, but the mechanisms, there's a mathematics to the mechanism. People never, even regarding poltergeist apports, you know, people said, oh, yes, this was over there, and then I found it over here. And how many times has that happened? Quite a lot in poltergeist phenomena. How many times has people measured the distance, the displacement effect from there to there? Not many. And so why would you measure it? Because the same figures tend to fall out again and again. You know, oh, well, that cup was over there and I found it over there. Hang on, don't touch it. Let's measure it. Oh, right, it's 46.6 inches. Okay. Something else happens middle of the night. Something moved and it was over there. Measured it out, 46.6 inches. What's going on here? There's a mechanism.
My gosh.
Now,
yes.
It's called displacement effect mechanism. And what you also learn with the apport phenomena is that when apports take place, the phenomena seemingly is trying to anchor itself to deliver the phenomena to the location. Now, we've always thought poltergeist phenomena, you know, oh, well, there's a poltergeist must be a poltergeist. When these things are taking place, there must be a poltergeist in each and one of those houses. Well, What if I was to turn around and say, well, what if it's a mechanism to deliver the phenomena to various locations at the same time? People are reporting, well, I get coins. They appear from nowhere. Well, that's really interesting. Where are they from? Well, they're always Spanish. Well, why are they always Spanish, your coins, when you live in the US? I don't know. Then you think to yourself, well, if you come across an incident in Spain, I wonder if they're getting US coins. Is this a phenomenon? It's very resourceful. So is it just swapping them? Is it from one location to another? You know? And this is why we have things that disappear, but they might be turning up at some other incident. You know, is it a multitasking phenomenon delivering the disturbances to an environment? So an apport could be a quantum anchor. In other words, I'll leave an apport in the house so I know where to deliver the phenomena to. Now I can go about my business because I know where that is. I'll go about my business. So we come along and we move the apport. We take we don't allow apports to stay in the house. We move them. We take them back into ours. Well, not our homes because they're hot. And I'm not literally feeling hot. When I say hot, I mean they're active. Because what happens with apports, if you relocate them, the phenomena goes with it. Temporarily, of course, only for a short time until it realizes the mechanism. Oh my God, what's going on? The mechanism. I'm delivering phenomena to the apport where the apport is. It's not in the environment I wanted it to be in. So and then it kind of figures this out quite quickly and starts to go back.
I just had Russell Reynolds on, and he confirms it. He said sometimes, like in these situations, they will leave for a little bit of time, but it comes back, and that is exactly.
It works it out. It doesn't like you. Working it out and messing with its mechanism, but it works it out. It kind of, because people have said, Steve, have you rang me and said, Steve, have you got rid of it? Got rid of what? The phenomenon, the poltergeist stuff, right? Well, we have 8, 9, 10 things a day happening, and since you took the apport away, we didn't have anything yesterday, or the next day, or the next day. Oh, brilliant! Well, let me know when it comes back. About the 4th day or something. It's back. God! It kind of works it out. But the thing is that when we took the apport to a location, a secure location, the phenomenon was taking place there, where the apport was. So these apports are quantum anchors in a sense, I believe. So where's the original item? I mean, for instance, if I've got a glass and this becomes the apport, or suddenly it disappeared. This glass, I had it next to my table in my bedroom. I woke up and it's in the middle of the living room carpet. So obvious. And you think, oh, right. Well, the people just normally pick it up and go and put it back on the shelf in the kitchen. Oh, yeah, that's my glass. I'll drink my, But you might be drinking out of a glass, which is an apport. You're infected by these. The apport isn't what left. It seems to be a mimic. It looks the same, feels the same, weighs the same, but it's not the same. So what we did is we took the apport and we went to a university and we had it analysed against exactly the same another glass, or another mug it was, in fact. It turned out you always have to test it against something. You've got to have a bench test. You can't analyse this unless you've got something to analyse it against, a normal one. So we have to put a mark on it. It's an apport. So we don't get mixed up between the two because we can't tell the difference physically. And then you go and take the proper glass and you've broken up and it goes through atomic radiation testing, microscopy, and then you take the apport. And the thing is, the computer looks to match this with the other one. And all of a sudden it comes up on screen, it can't match it. Well, why can't it match this to the other one? There's no difference. Same manufacturing time, same glass set. Because it's got a profound diathermic reaction in it that shows that it's not the one at left. So where's the one at left? Well, because it's so resourceful, poltergeist phenomena, it doesn't have to send it far away, the original. It could be 2 feet, 3 feet below you under the floorboard. It could be 2 feet away from you in the wall cavity.
Wow.
So to prove that, though, over the years, I've been doing experiments and talking with people and dealt with poltergeist infestations. I always got the amount of apports I collected over the years is crazy. I don't bring it into my house, of course, unless they've become cold. In other words, the phenomena has to disattach itself from the apport, and then it becomes cold. It's dead. So those are safe then, But we should be testing these things, even with radiation meters. We should have Geiger counters even checking apports, because people don't do it, and they should be doing it, because some of these could be radioactive for sure, you know, and long-term standing effects over long periods of time can happen. And the thing is, we should be testing for that also. But the thing is, when it comes to the apport, is that how do you find the evidence? Well, what was interesting is that I did an investigation. There was a woman who was having poltergeist disturbances. Her pet budgie, well, it's actually a son's pet budgie, died, unfortunately. They don't live for very long. And it was on the bottom of the cage. So, you know, she decided to have it, you know, took it to like a crematorium place. And, you know, and they got this little urn. It was only so big, little gold urn. And they placed it on top of the fireplace, waiting for the remains of the budgie to be returned home. And it disappeared. Then they blamed the poltergeist. It turned up inside the fridge, of all places. When they went in to get the milk, right next to the milk, there, the urn. You know, it's like it's done purposeful. You're like, oh yes, it won't waste an action. It won't put it somewhere where you think, maybe I put it there and I can't remember. No, it has to be in a place where you're going to go immediately. Oh yeah, that's definitely the poltergeist phenomenon, because that's what it wants. It's resourceful, it's an engine. So she gets out the fridge and she thinks, oh, this is and she tells me, I said, this must be an apport. So I said to her, where's the original one? She said, what went into this? I said, well, I don't think so. I said, if I was to analyze that, but I'd need two to analyze, you know. If I was to analyze that, I bet you it's got a strange dithermic alteration in it that doesn't appear in the normal one. So where's the other one? We don't know. So anyway, that was in 1998, I think, something like that, 1998, some years back. About 6 years later, they decided to knock a living room wall down, to open it up and expand it into the dining room. And in the cavity in the wall was the original apport, the urn. Now there was two urns, the apport urn and the real urn. And people say, Steve, you know, it's just too much to explain, too much to understand, too much to believe. I'll show you them. This one is the urn found in the wall cavity, and this is the apport urn.
Oh, wow.
The dates on it. It was, 1997, 99. So, long, it's a mimic. Where did you
feel the same, look the same, everything?
You won't know. You could. People have said to me, Steve, I've had this type of phenomena follow me all over my life. I mean, you can't imagine people having poltergeist stuff throughout the life, but it must be pretty bad. Because normally it's usually short-lived, but now they've tried to run away from it. They've moved to another country. So can't get away from it. How does it know where I am? And I sat there thinking, do you wear glasses? She says, yes. I said, well, what about a ring or an earring or your glasses?
Oh.
What's there? You're taking them with you. It knows exactly you become tagged. It could be. Hey, how do we know? It could be even a
that is tag.
We don't know. It could be a pacemaker, a filling. Who knows? You know, the thing is that they can tag. Sure, they can. You know, but it starts getting very interesting when you start looking at the mechanisms of the apported phenomena, because people sometimes can't get away from these things, and I think they have been targeted in some cases. You know, because it should be a short-lived phenomenon, but we like to play with the mechanism. We like to mess it up for them. It aggravates them. It annoys them. You know. But we do learn.
Is there any way of getting ahead of this, like inverting some of this and maybe changing the outcome? You know, like their power, I guess. Are we forever in this loop?
Yeah. Well, we usually always called afterwards, because you don't know the predecessor. You know, you don't know it's going to happen, because they tend always to come out of the blue. You know, it's like they do a psyop type, on people before they actually engage sometimes. But we do go in trying to assist people all the time. But it's not always easy, depending on how much the relationship is, how much is it rooted with those individuals, how long has it been. Some people we have helped, you know, they have an aversion to iron, or aversion or evasion in whatever way. But we know the reasons why, because the iron suppresses RF frequencies, and RF frequencies seemingly associated to the manifestation process. So
are we supposed to always have low iron?
Well, you don't want low iron because phenomena likes to target people with low iron in the body. So what we do is we say, first off, supplement yourself with iron.
Yeah, I require a high amount. Like, even though I'm out in the sun all the time, I require a high amount.
I'm the same. I have to have it. I've even bought the liquid water version from Italy. So but I'm the same. So phenomena does that. Phenomena doesn't like iron. So it depletes your iron because it doesn't like to engage when you've got it. And that goes back to ancient times when ancient civilizations were doing human sacrificing and stuff. It's awful, really, but we're told that was mostly men, but it actually wasn't really. It was a lot of women that, to the deities, to the gods, whoever they were, and what's interesting is that they did that at times of menstrual cycles. There's less iron in the body. And they knew that the deities liked to deal with that. Oh, fantastic. And they reel them up. There you go. There you have it. It was terrible, really. But a lot of societies were doing that, and nearly all the gods, all the deities do that. So you have to question these things. Look at, when Oppenheimer made the atomic bomb, there are so many people that say, oh, well, do you remember that famous saying that he had that I have become death? I made the atomic bomb and I have now become death. Well, he didn't actually say that. What he said was he quoted from a scripture regarding Vishnu, an Indian god. And Vishnu appeared as a person to a prince and was trying to encourage the prince to do something which he didn't really want to do. And then he transformed and went a slightly different color, like a blue color, and another 6 arms appeared on him, and he became a god, or Vishnu with 8 arms. And he quoted, Oppenheimer quoted that, and in regards to that, the prince went ahead and did his bidding, Vishnu's bidding, and was said, it's written, that I have become death. He was quoting Vishnu incident with this prince, a deity, with a god being with this prince, not him. And people just get it a bit wrong, really. But these things have been around for a long, long time. It's no different than the jinn, And what's jinn? Well, jinn is described as smokeless fire. Well, hang on a second. Aren't we seeing that in the skies now? If we look at that and go over to the Middle East, they won't say UAP and balls of light. They'll say, oh, it's jinn. Because that's what it is. It's smokeless fire, and they're intelligent. And they give knowledge.
Whoa.
Yeah. The smokeless fire is the same thing. They gift people. And when they gift people, where do you think the name geniism came from? Genius. From the jinn. From jinn to genie to genie to genius to genius. It's all the same. It's about people that gain knowledge from deities or beings. Being gifted with knowledge from an outside source, you become a genius. From the jinn. That's where the name comes from. Yeah. So it's everywhere around us. We just don't see it very much because it's hidden and we don't talk about these things. But our lives are enthralled with the NHI. These things haven't just popped along in the 1970s or 80s or even earlier than that. They've always been at the forefront, and humanity's fitted into it, to be honest with you. Fashioned in a sense.
Oh yeah. I followed Hetlaufer, which it stated humanoid extraterrestrials live among us. We looked at it as their architecture, like the whole, just not to the. I didn't know it to the degree like I do at this moment in time. You can't. Yeah. There's no going back from here, Steve. There is no going. This is one of those moments. There is no going back from here.
There's a great effort. I mean, the problem is that it's in every aspect. Even the Vatican know this. I mean, look, we've got a priest that came out. Was it only about last week or the week before, a couple of weeks ago? And he's quite a high-ranking priest for the Vatican. He's an exorcist, and he was on a talk show, and he was talking about the procedures that he has to do. He doesn't like to give too much information out because the Vatican are like, they don't like that. But he was asked the question. Have you ever cast these things out? Oh, yes. Sometimes in their effort to stay within the individual or the location, the possessed person vomited up small items. What, like? What, coins? Do you mean like coins in a poltergeist case? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So what it's doing is, remember when I said to you about the poltergeist apples? It's trying to anchor itself into a person's home. This thing is creating an apport which is being regurgitated out of the individual's mouth to anchor itself desperately in the environment because it's being forced out by the exorcism. And then he said, and I've seen them. And he said, what do you mean you've seen them? Oh, I know what they look like. Oh, what these demonic things? Well, I don't know if they're demonic, he said. And I thought, well, I thought the Vatican always thought it was demonic. And he said, oh, no, but I've seen them. And he said, well, how did they look? What did they look like? He said, well, they look like you grey aliens, he said.
You're the second person to say that. Oh, maybe it was Chris Minor from the other day. So, that would make sense why.
Yeah.
But yes, wow.
This is coming from a Vatican priest, an exorcist.
Yes.
Well known. You know, and you think to yourself, okay, so they're desperately trying to anchor themselves into the environment by causing things to appear, which are regurgitated, you know, which basically mean taken out, thrown up out of the mouth of the victims. And it's trying to anchor it. It's desperate. You know, and what happened was years ago, because of iron, because the phenomena doesn't like iron, the first crucifixes that came out, which were given to the priests who did exorcisms, the crucifixes were made of iron. Iron 5 is a particular type of iron, raw iron, the best. Now, if you watch Hollywood films, you'll see sometimes when the exorcists happen, they go in and do this exorcism, these priests, and suddenly they've got all those crucifixes, it bursts into flames. Never happens, right? But I'll tell you where they got that actually details from. Because what happens in real life when dealing with some of these things is that because the priest is in close proximity or physical connection with the iron, which is helping the priest, the phenomena wants to disengage the iron from the priest. So what's it do? It starts to heat up. It doesn't burn. It starts bust into flame. It heats the iron up. I've seen the blisters. I've seen exorcist blisters. They're called exorcist blisters. They come across the hand like this. It's through holding the hot iron crucifix at the time of the purification process. You know, where they're contained. You know, condemned. And the thing is that causes these to heat up. So you can see the burn marks on their hands from years of doing this. You know, so that's because of the iron. You know, and it's a trait that goes back in ancient times, you know, from crystals like hematite, which is pretty much about 90% iron. And what were the hematite used? It was to ward away jinn in the Middle East, you know, or it's in Germany where farmers were banging iron rods in the fields to stop their cattle and livestock being taken or worse by the phenomenon. Iron rods were placed across cribs in Ireland. Why? To stop the children from being abducted in the night, you know, iron everywhere in throughout Europe, in the UK as well. You might notice this sometimes, that churches and cemeteries are separated by raw iron gates or raw iron fencing.
Yeah,
they separate the realms. This ancient thing has really been brought across the whole world, and people say it every day, but won't even know. You know, but it's there. So even the lucky horseshoe, it's nothing about being lucky. They placed it over doors to ward away the nasties. And that's as simply it, you know. This is why there was lead in church windows. You know,
the water, lead in the water, paints. I don't know. Like I just think of all of the things. Like wow,
so many things that goes back into ancient times, and we can still utilize. We can still weaponize these.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we want to, in regarding the phenomenon. You know, there's a certain aspect of phenomenon as well, which is usually tied in with night terrors, the night attacks, the nocturnal phenomena that hate UV, and you can actually get UV bulbs and actually put them on. We see very little light come from them, but they do. They're blinded by it. They hate it, apparently. So even that can be assistful sometimes. But I've had people who have been having abduction phenomena, and I said to them, well, what is your best device? And he said, well, we've got these cameras, only small, but the Wi-Fi, and they run on batteries. You can't have them run off the electricity because it can turn the electricity off. And they take it everywhere with them. They don't like to be caught on camera, so they evade it. And she's even taken it into the bathroom with her, this poor woman, because of the phenomena. Even trapped her in there one time. And the thing is, people have contacted me now and said, no, I got this iron horseshoe and I put it under my bed. Brilliant, I said, but check it every day. And he said, why? I said, just do it. On occasion, sometimes they come back and said, it's gone. The swines have took it. And I said, get another one. So yeah, it's there do seem to be some things that we can do that can be assistful. But the best piece of equipment is your skin, because your skin recognizes things that the other sensors don't. If you go into a haunted building, and you get that feeling of all your hairs go up on your arms and your back of your neck, that's your fight or flight kicking in. And your fight or flight kicking in is because your fight or flight is connected to all the sensors apart from your eyes and your nose and your smelling, your mouth and all hearing, all that, and even your touch. It's deep. And what it does is it alerts you, and it's telling you, just because you don't see it, just because you don't feel it or hear it, doesn't mean it's not there. It's like that old survival sense. I think it's an old survival sense when the days of saber-toothed tiger was hiding in the bush over there, and suddenly we get, that,
or you feel how heavy it is, like something's
it's your body saying, get the hell out of there. And I say to people, listen to it. Listen to what your body is the best. They keep going on, I bought this equipment. The best piece of equipment is your skin. But the thing is, when you're going out on investigations, do not fill yourself up with refined sugar. Refined sugar is a poison to the body. And I get it, because we all love it. I understand that. But purge yourself for 2 or 3 days before you go on a profound investigation, and you'll be surprised how alert you are. You've just become on steroids, your alert mechanism. Because what happens, refined sugar causes adrenal weakness, which disconnects you from your fight or flight. You don't get it. You don't feel it. And what they're doing, they're going out there drinking Coca-Cola and candy bars and having all these things. The amount of refined sugar that they're consuming just on an investigation, they're dampening their mechanism, which works really well. And I say always trust it, because that's what it's there for. We still have that survival sense, and we just need to utilize it more on location, to be honest with you.
Yes, we do. Because I said, too, that cellular memory is there for a reason. Your body might sense it, but you have to make sense out of it. Not everything, that kind of
really do. You really do. I mean, there's
balance.
A lot. Yeah, absolutely. Everything we see now with the experiments being done, we really are getting very deep into the micro layers of everything, and genetics as well, regarding the aspects of phenomenon. We talk about lesions, we talk about sigils that have appeared on people. I've seen them, I've got them, I've got the photos of them, I've witnessed these things. It doesn't happen to everybody. It's pretty rare, but phenomena is putting its own stamp on people now. But the thing is that it's subdermal. It comes up from the layer underneath the skin, not on top of the skin. It's underneath, and it comes up, and it comes into pattern form, and it's a sigil. I can recognize the sigil. I know of a specialist that have worked in that area. And the thing is that you look at it and you do analysis. It's like a microscopic layer, the microdermal layer of the skin has been affected. How on earth they're doing that, I do not know. But it starts getting into the genetic side, because now we're seeing that through Gary Nolan's work at SRI, Stanford Research Institute, is that the effects on the human brain, the caudate putamen is affected, which is about your perception. It deals with perception. But why is your caudate putamen being adversely affected, which deals with perception, in close proximity to phenomena? Why is it leaving scars on your brain, inside your brain? It's damaging. is because it seems to be like what I believed. It's false perception. In other words, it's manipulating your perception so much it starts to damage, in a physical sense, the items which are responsible for perception in the human brain. Then you get this white matter disease, they call it, but I don't think it lies just in the UFO phenomenon. I think it lies in the paranormal as well. People have had close traumatic experiences with the paranormal phenomena. And now what we're seeing is a very likely chance that if you are an experiencer and you have this problem in the brain, you wouldn't know until you start examining the brain and you start to realize, oh, there's some unusual things taking place here on the caudate putamen. And then you end up being with somebody else who, you meet a nice guy or a woman, and they've got their experiences as well, and they've had experience, and they've got the same thing as well. Them two people can create an offspring which has already got it. In other words, it's genetically passed on to become an experiencer at birth.
Oh, wow.
This is how far the research is really going into now, looking into these areas, because the genetic plantation of phenomena invocation. In other words, you're already birthed to be an experiencer because of your parents. Now, if God, remember when God said, you can carry the sins. This is what it's stupid, but you can carry the sins of your mother and father, and they can be produced into the offspring. When you talk about the sin, what is the sin? When you start to look at the sin, it refers it as a third party. What's that third party sin? Makes you think, doesn't it, about, was there a reference about the genetic coding that people are birthed with now because of their parents being experiencers? It starts to get very, very interesting, Coley, because we might be more associated. Many people might be more associated with phenomena than they'd ever know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I firmly believe that. How do you go about finding? That's where I'm at with that. So much as a quest for answers.
Well, it is down to MRI scans to check in the caudate putamen area of the brain because it could be adversely affected. But the thing is, when conducting
where exactly is that located in the brain? Can you tell me?
It's located at the left back here, round about. Yeah,
like in the area of your brain stems, like in the left,
just slightly to the left of it. Yes,
slightly to the left of your brain stem.
If with your left hand, yes, yeah, because it's reverse showing.
That's where it is in my MRI. That's why I'm asking.
Right, okay, so it's round about here. So the thing is that if you ask them to look at the caudate putamen and they examine it. Those scans and see that there is white matter disease and scarring of the caudate putamen, then it's because of manipulation. And that manipulation is through phenomenon. And that means that if you were with a partner who's also had that condition, that you could likely have children which are already born to it. And unfortunately, we might be setting our children up to it, and we can't do nothing about it. This is how the phenomena reaches into our very genetic coding, and they're born experiencers. And this is why people have my 3-year-old boy or 2-year-old boy, I'm sure he's seen people. Well, yes, we're getting more and more of that as time goes on, and it does seem to happen. So it starts to get very interesting in questioning the why. Why are so many people being initiated at such an early age? Well, maybe that they're already set up for it on some cases because the father's a UFO researcher, the mother's a paranormal investigator or whatever. It could be simply that we have to get into this a little bit more at some point and start really delving into the studies more.
Yeah, well, my kiddo, I don't think he does something a little bit different with time dilation, but that's his thing. But now you're saying, and it's just like, wow.
When you talk about time dilation, what do you mean about what? Give me an idea of what you mean by the reference time dilation.
Okay, so he says that let's say you were playing volleyball or something back then. I remember this is when I first started seeing it, right after he had experienced a UFO. So anyway, he was there and he was able to maneuver through the kids, the ball. I mean, he couldn't have been more perfect at how he hit this thing. And he told me that he was able to slow it down so he was better able to maneuver through it. is what he said.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's been incidents when, because I heard time dilation incidents. There was one that was actually, it was this year, and when the gentleman actually came out with this, and as a child he was playing with friends, and he played on the top of a roof, a one-story building roof. When they used to play up there on the roof, it was quite a big roof, and the ladders go up at the side, the stairs, and there's a little door there, and all his friends went up there, and cousins and stuff, and they went up there playing, and he was the last one through the door. He was delayed a little bit, and as he went through, and he went out there, and he looked around, and they were all frozen. I mean, literally frozen. And he was going up to them, and he couldn't understand what's going on here. What is this, a strange game or something? And he was telling me, he was prodding them in the face and touching them and all sorts of things. And he just oblivious, just frozen. And then he went over to one of the eldest of these children, and he was a bit taller than him. So he's looking up at this child, and something caught his eye in the sky. 30 feet away, there's an egg-shaped craft with a windscreen on it, and inside that windscreen, could see them clearly at 30 feet, were two alien greys. And one of the greys is looking at the other one, and he's looking at him as if to say, hang on, what's going on here? Why isn't he frozen? And next minute, that's the last thing he remembers. So probably he did get it. But if they are able to freeze you, there's time anomalies. And this is why we use DT meters. They're expensive and they're hard to get hold of, but we've got DT meters now. So's the Department of Defense as well. The same DT meters.
Oh, I bet they do, yeah.
And they got it from us. Because they've said, I was told, oh well, we got it because you've got it, sort of thing. I say, okay, because they were the DT meter, time displacement meter. It's got a very, very long lead and a probe on the end, and the equipment measuring unit on the other.
I think I was watching one of your shows, and I don't know if you brought it forth, where they had like the contractors, or I can't remember. It was going back quite a bit, and they said it wouldn't make more sense. The government doesn't get something to improve it continuously. They go and they follow this. The contractors are where you find like the true, that's who they're
exactly
going to. So I was like,
that's exactly it. But it's a great piece of equipment because you can utilize it in paranormal investigation. You can utilize it in UAP. When things materialize, it causes gravitational anomalies, which you can pick up with EMF. It's not a ghost detector. It's picking up the gravitational anomaly, the phenomena created because of the manifestation process or object manipulation. And it's picking up gravity well, and that creates electromagnetic energy, which is frequencies, which causes the fluctuations in the EMF meters. And DT meters will measure time displacements in time, the anomalies. Why should we have displacements? It might be only microseconds, but that's what we get with UFOs when they suddenly appear in the sky or disappear. Because sometimes we see them and then suddenly they go pop and they're gone, as if they never were there in the first place. But in a hole this size of what it took in space and time, where it existed and it disappeared, it leaves a hole. I mean, because there's always something in that. There's gravity, there's light waves, there's various different gases, dust, all sorts of things in that hole that you don't know. Magnetic waves, radiation, everything. But when it's occupied by something, the UFO, and the UFO disappears, it leaves a hole. And that vacuum becomes a gravity well. And that, over a short period of time, gets smaller and smaller and smaller and dissipates, and it's gone. So you've got to get there quick to, certainly for the first 48 hours anyway, to measure it, you'll get displacements in time. It's the same thing when an object moves in paranormal phenomena. You go in there and your EMF's going off. Oh, right, well, it's going off in this certain area where the object was moved. Well, why is it a footprint? Because there's a gravitational anomaly there. It created it through the process of the action of the phenomena. The same physics, applies in that field as that field. Electron diffusion regions exist out there that the phenomena utilizes, and micro electron diffusions exist in the paranormal. We just call them hotspots in the paranormal. Where's the most problematic place? Well, it's that cupboard or it's that closet, or it's that wardrobe, or it's in the kitchen. These are the focal points of the energy. Well, that's something, you know. So you're dealing with micro electron diffusions in different areas, be it outdoors and larger, occupied and utilized by the UAP, or micro ones utilized in small environments in people's haunted homes under the research of hauntology. So it's, you know, it's what we call paranormal mechanics, the physics of it. And you can just study that alone, like I do and have done for many years. And I tell you what, you start to realize, oh yes, there's a very clever mechanism at play here. But some of the physics, it's quantum based, a lot of it.
Wow. How do you sleep at night after all of that?
You know, in my earlier days, struggling a little bit sometimes.
Oh, God.
But I've witnessed phenomena firsthand. Do you know what? I witnessed something very powerful, and I was not ready for it. And it had me buckle up on the floor, and floods of tears. It was not. Oh, it's not something I'd want to have again, you know. But when they express the energy and the powers, the feelings and how they can do what they do to you, that floored me, you know. So I do know they can do that. So I do tread carefully, absolutely. I've caught their eye a few times, and I get, like a naughty child, you get slapped on the hand, you get punished for those sort of things. In other words, but the thing is that I'm not very good at, Coley, is reverse psychology, because reverse psychology teaches us, like, well, your action lets me know that I was on the right track.
Right.
But they don't understand that. They still go ahead and do it. And I think, how silly are they? Because if I'm going to get punished for something, I know I'm on the right track. I've obviously upset them or something. And I make a little note. Okay, I caught a little bit of reaction there. All right, so next time I'll take little steps. Don't go flying into it, because you'll catch the eye too much and get smacked, slapped again for being naughty. So it tells me, but they're not very good at understanding reverse psychology. It must be a humanistic trait, really, because they never seem to understand that. You're just letting me know that I was on the right track. Thank you. You know.
Have you ever tried the technique of like singing in your head over and over until it brings you down?
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing with, because the thing is that there's a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And there is certain things I can do with I would say the normal minions, the ones that are normally around. But if you really do catch their eye, because I was actually doing research in Sumerian demonology at the time, and I upset them, and they sent a big boy out, not your normal minion. It got past all my defenses, and I got physically attacked. For that, it started off with a UFO over my house for maybe about 25 minutes. And then that was the start of the experience. The end of the experience was being physically attacked in my bedroom, which was not pleasant. And then I was up the rest of the night. So yes, I kind of got a little bit of a warning. That's a big guy. There's hierarchies. They sent a big boy out to deal with that. And it was. And he got past. There was nothing I could do. He got past everything that I normally lay out to. I can deal with the minions quite reasonably well, but sometimes you come across these big boys. No.
So is there, do you have these in categories? Do you have these in, like, I'm assuming, and different, you have to, how do you prepare for this? Like, how do you prepare? Do you anticipate what's coming in just from what you know?
Well, it's your actions.
Possibilities are like,
it's your actions that cause it. I mean, it's like saying, look, how do people that navigate across the Serengeti not get eaten by lions? How did he do it? Because they spent years knowing how to do that, knowing how much they compress them, knowing how much that they can't. Oh, and that's it. If you go the wrong, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing of navigating the Serengeti. Really, that's what I'm doing. It's like, well, I don't want to catch the eye too much. I'm here. Ignore me. I don't mean any harm. they know what I'm doing, but they kind of go, they might have a little bit of a growl at me, like a lion might do, but they're not going to run and attack me unless I really, really annoy them and I've done something to really piss them off, to be honest with you. And that sometimes I've done in my naivety of my earlier days of doing this research. I just went in there like a bull in a china shop, and of course I got really hammered for doing that. And it's not good. And it's not just about physical things, it's about torment. The torment is not good. I mean, I have them hammering at the door. I mean, hammering. There's nothing there.
I know.
It's not.
They have a sense of urgency. I know what you're saying.
I had the car fail. I had the washing machine literally explode. The fridge broke down. Everything. It's just like you've been cursed by this thing.
I know.
It's like I am going to curse you, and then if that's not enough, your relationship's in for it. I am going to call.
It gets destroyed.
And everything. Oh my word, it's like flipping heck. They know how to do that and manipulate.
I had a haunted box, and I thought I finally got rid of it. I thought I did. My friend brought it over. He's like, it's going to start his apartment on fire. And he was an engineer with Collins Aerospace. So I believed him when he knew what he's talking about. But I thought that was the coolest thing. Finally, after it trapped me in my car and had my wrist about to snap it off. And for 40 minutes, I said, that's it. And this is after it blew. I mean, it was setting electronics off in the middle of the night. You couldn't even imagine. And so then I got it. I was like, what do I do? So I sprayed it with holy water. Make a long story short, the crucifix that was on it, it broke in two. It started spinning around like something out of a horror movie. But the question of the day was, where in the hell did that thing go? Because it was the box was no longer affected. But a family member who started acting very bizarrely after that.
Yeah, well, they can take over. I mean, when people have said, they're not. People laugh at the comments when people say, well, why don't they just come and land on the White House lawn? And some researchers have turned around and said, well, they don't need to. They're already in there. And what did he mean? Well, I'll tell you what they mean is that that NHI can absolutely, and I know this 100%, can commandeer the consciousness of an individual. That's the big. These aren't people just coming in. These aren't like people like to believe. Oh yes, these are alien shapeshifters. No, they're not. Right? They're not alien shapeshifters. They can just commandeer your mind. Now, this is in fact is illuminated. Can I say that? Yeah. This is a fact illuminated in Spielberg's new movie, as we know from this trailer. That the commandeering of conscious mind is in there. And I know where he got that information from when he was making this film. I also know that the reasons why he was filming in New Jersey, because the phenomenon was taking place in New Jersey at the time. There's a lot of things I know about this movie, and it starts getting very interesting when you start to look at it and you think, oh, okay, it's all about consciousness occupying, I mean, there is a them. And there is a UFO in it because there is a them. But this is what they can do, commandeer the minds of the weaker. And that's us. And they have been doing it for thousands of years. It's known as the influence. It's in artist work, paintings and scriptures. It's vocalized and visualized as something whispering in your ear. It's the influence. It's and they can commandeer the conscious mind, not all the time, but when they want to. So they can have sleeper cells anywhere. If you want to know what's going on in the White House, occupy somebody who goes in there. They can do that. I know that they can do this. I've seen some crazy stuff where it's demonstrated what they can do. And they can do some horrific things, or they can do things which are quite comical at times. Because after all, it is a trickster, as a trickster element. Because it understands about our fears and our emotions to certain things. So it can utilize them on many occasions, which they've demonstrated.
That is so true too. That is so true.
Yeah. Is there any questions, Coley? I know people.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I should look back. I got so wrapped up into this. This is probably in chat. I apologize. I'm going to go through. I was so you took me back, and I usually am looking, and I've been trying to keep up, but I was like, wow, I was so blown away by some of the stuff that you were saying. I was just like, I need to process this because this is this is great. This is like, and I'm saying this, and I don't usually have this type of response, but wow, like it really
if anybody's got any questions, I'm always happy to.
Please put them.
Just tell them to pop questions in and capitalize them, and I'll answer them if I know. Yeah, I've never been afraid, no matter where I've been in this world and lectured. I was lectured all over the world. It
really seemed like everybody was connecting with what you were saying, because when I would look, I mean, that is unlike, usually there's 1,000 questions that would come about, but I think you provided enough
to absorb the information.
Yes.
I do try and get as much out as I possibly can, but there are things I don't know, and I'm quite happy to turn around and say, I ain't got a clue. I don't know.
I would love
to
do a part 2. I really would. I would love.
Yeah,
to do
sure. I mean, we could. I've been doing this for 42 years. What I've talked about today is probably about maybe 6 months of my life. It's some crazy stuff. And I've worked with departments in the UK, police departments. I've worked on strange disappearances that the police had me involved in. I've worked with criminal. This bit like the CIA in America. I've worked for the British version. In regarding some strange things, and I've done corporate investigations in the UK for 16 and a half years. I was doing corporate investigations. These are for big companies which are having problems, and they don't want people to know about it. They don't want the press to hear about it. And there were crazy, crazy things that were happening. And you think, well, it's England. It's the most haunted probably country on the planet. To be honest with you, it pretty much is. I live in that location when paranormal phenomena is pretty much quite at the norm. But then I still come across things and I shake my head and say, I haven't got a clue. I'm quite happy. I've never been, shied away from saying I don't know.
No, that's amazing. There is a question. I don't know if you saw it. I may have missed it. This is from Maya. But does Steve think some of these beings or crafts emit radiation that could affect us? I don't know if you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course they do. I mean, through conducting tests, you've got to sort of come to in the face. You've got to be in the face of phenomena sometimes, especially during the manifestation process, which we've been involved in. Project Doorway with myself and my colleague Barry Fitzgerald spent about 10 years all over the world doing research in that particular area. It was about. I don't like to use the word portals. Just don't like the name. Electron diffusion region is its proper name, really. But we're doing studies in that and how the phenomenon utilizes these things. And there is radiation involved in many cases. And we wouldn't even know. There's also, when we're looking at some of the craft, they might look very bright. But what we don't know is the frequency of the light. Some of the hidden frequencies in that light, as you might be looking at it, you might think it's pretty, but it's burning your retina at the same time. You wouldn't know until you get home and it starts itching, and then it starts getting sore, then it starts weeping, and then it starts getting red. You've just burned your retina and you wouldn't know. I mean, they're nasty, they are, these things sometimes. The thing is, they can shoot you with an EMP. They can EMP, you can cause semi-paralysis through an EMP as well. They can cause that you can't run away. They can cause effects on equipment as well as the biologics. So yes, and worse. I know people. I've worked in I can't talk about it here on YouTube, of course, but you can well imagine. I've worked on some cases, which I'm aware of, and I've seen the files and I've seen what's happened to people, and it's an absolute horror tale. Really, especially in Brazil, it's still going on. I've got people on the ground in Brazil, and they're informing me of what's going on a regular basis. But yes, that stuff does go on. So yeah, there's a lot of things you need to be cautious about. I wouldn't throw yourself to the wind. I'd always be with somebody. If you really do want to go out there, then they're going to tempt you to go into their location where there's not many footfall there. There's not many people there. Rural locations. Probably the worst places are national parks. but they always have been. It's not something new through the 411 missing cases. It's always been there. It's just been illuminated by David Palladdy's work. But the paranormal is hyped. It's off the charts. The cryptid stuff is off the charts. The UFO stuff there is off the charts. And then you've got this profound disappearances, which is beyond normal, to be honest with you. If people are biolocated, if they are being found, most of them don't in these 411 missing cases, but when some are found, they're never the same. Something's not right with them. They won't even talk about their experiences. They won't even go there. They get angry about it. If they're biolocated, basically it's an apport. But if you apport a person, it becomes known as a biolocation. That can't be good. We know what the effects are on pieces of items. Well, what's happening to people when they're biolocated? Something clearly is not good. So yes, there are a lot of things that we need to be aware of, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And did you see there's a Moon had but I can't find that. I'm asking for the first part of this. It says, does Steve think that they are alien or locals? Not sure.
You've got to understand, guys, is that the government are always going to work on words. It's their get out clause, because you could pull them when they tell you one day it's not alien. They've got an argument, because what they're saying is that they're not saying anything that's profoundly unusual could be considered alien to us. But if the question means, are they extraterrestrial? They've changed the narrative. Oh yeah, years ago it was all UFOs and extraterrestrials. Now it's not. It's UAP and non-human intelligence. They've dropped the extraterrestrials because after NASA conducting a survey, and don't get me wrong, they know what UFOs are. They know that they're being filmed by pilots and other specialists around the world. They know they exist. But NASA conducted its experiments and surveys and tests and concluded that they didn't have enough information to show that these things are extraterrestrial in nature. In fact, SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, they've made a statement saying space is unusually quiet. Documentation has come out now to suggest that we are living in a solitude zone. What's that mean? Well, in other words, we're out here on our own, maybe. Yes, there might be millions of other life forms out there, maybe, with all the other stars. But round our solar system, round our universe, is a massive void of blackness. If you were to travel, it's not like Star Trek. I'm going to travel outside our galaxy and into the next galaxy. Well, hang on a second. There's your galaxy. There's the other galaxy. What's in between is black void of nothingness. No stars, nothing. And to get from there to there, you've got to go through that void. So the thing is that
I felt that void.
Yes. And I know what the void's like. Yes.
There's nothing else more skin crawling, more uncomfortable.
It is a completely core eating, isn't it? It's really, it's awful. So,
yes.
But you're right, though. People can't grab the understanding. Extraterrestrials, they don't believe they are. So they're going with something else. They believe they're interdimensional now, which is really an old terminology, which we realized in that back day to the days of John Keel, to be honest, which he referred to as ultra-terrestrials, is what I think and many other researchers and probably even the government people believe. Arrow, which is the Pentagon UFO program, they conducted the same research and they concluded the same. Don't believe they're extraterrestrial. Okay, so I would say I don't think they're extraterrestrial. I don't think they're coming from any other planets. I think that they're a terrestrial or maybe crypto-terrestrial or aquaterrestrial, if you want to refer to that, based phenomena, which has always been here. You've probably been.
We don't know what's on the other side of the veil.
We don't know. We could be the new kids. We could be the new kids on the block. We wouldn't know, would we? They've probably been here longer than us, to be honest.
But I think you're onto something. Definitely, I think you're onto something. Okay. What do you think about the simulation? Well, not even just onto something. You just literally.
It is all a simulation. I've worked in areas and taught and dealt with quantum physicists, and
which would make more sense if it is how it operates.
Reality is constructed in our brain, consciousness, But because it's a bit crazy, and it's hard to explain to people about quantum mechanics, really. But I'll try and put it in sort of layman terms for people to understand. If you were to say that, your bathroom, you have a bathroom in your home. But what I was to say to you, that bathroom doesn't exist until you experience it. Well, you might argue the fact is, well, I can prove you wrong because I can go and set a video up and record my bathroom when I'm not there, and therefore it is real. And I would argue, I would turn around and say, well, you know what? You are absolutely right. And that's because you placed a video camera there. And how do we know that? Well, the double slit experiment, or the dual slit experiment, which way you want to refer to it is, means that when we look at anything, we collapse the waveform, and that item, that object, whatever we're looking at, acts differently, the electrons in it. It knows when it's being watched. Everything. This glass knows. Now it knows it's being watched. Now it doesn't. Now it does. Now it doesn't. The electrons are changing in it when we look at it. Now we think to ourselves, okay, well, let's set up a video camera because I want to see it in its normal state, not when we're looking at it. It made no difference because the matrix, the simulation, knows the intent that the video camera is recording the glass. So the glass doesn't change because it knows it's being intently to be recorded and going to be seen by us. It knows not to change. That's the problem about reality. It's the whole thing, even our intent to record it affects it.
It does too.
Now, trying to wrap your head around
that, like take it a step further. There you go.
The simulation is real. It is. We live in a world of what is referred to as the E8 lattice. If you want to know more about that E8 lattice, put it into YouTube. Watch E8 lattice video about it. What we know about the crystal construction around our reality. And then there's a foreign agent that manipulates it. And that's called the phenomena. It's crazy, really, but it is.
That's crazy you say that because I always say that in order to trap it, you send it to the crystal cave. And when you said that, I was like, oh,
yeah, the E8 crystal lattice. That's what it is. What the world, what we see consists of. I mean, even scientists are arguing at this very moment in time about the universe, that it could be holographic in some nature. I just can't try to understand. When you start breaking down, you find things that is a bit uncomfortable, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah. Yes. And I too, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this and would love to do a part 2 and 2. Can I send you an email and kind of for some back end stuff? Would love to get your guidance
absolutely.
on.
Absolutely, yes. I'm always happy to come on and talk about the research that we've done over the years. There's so much of it we can share. So
yes, amazing. It's absolutely been amazing. I can't thank you enough for coming on and taking your Sunday. And again, is there anything you would let people know where they find you? And then
yeah, sure. I mean, I do put out I know you're watching things.
Yeah.
I've seen your comments.
I know.
So, yeah, I mean, there is my my YouTube channel, Steve Mera Official. It's Mera, Mera, Steve Mera Official. Just go on there and have a look. I mean, I do put stuff out. I'm always trying to keep people up to date with stuff, though that there's so much to come, and it's just a matter of time of having to get that information out. I know more than I can actually put out, to be honest with you, but that's probably about the best way. I'm always made available. That's one thing I've always done, unlike all the other people I know and good friends in this subject, which are up at the top, the biggest speakers in the world, and you can never get hold of them, you can never ask them a question. I'm always there because I think it's really important for people to be able to talk with somebody, especially if they've got experience, especially if they're not too sure or want to ask questions about something. So my information is everywhere. If you just Google Steve Mera, you'll probably get hold of me somehow.
That is so true. Yes, and go check out his YouTube channel. He's got great videos. I got sucked in, and Steve's probably like, I've been commenting. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, yeah. It was just it was after I watched the first one, I never went back. I was not the same person after. You create such an awareness, which is that's amazing. That's amazing. So yeah, I'm a believer. You're number one fan here. So and then what would you like to leave the audience with in closing?
I would say basically, you know what, just we are in difficult times at the moment, you know, and there is a word of warning, and just be careful about the deception of phenomena. I know, don't get me wrong, you know, it is exciting. I've been there. Exciting. Do it again, Steve. Oh, it's brilliant. Oh, it's wonderful. Until it got under my skin. Do not go through that. I don't want people to go through what I've gone through. You know, it's absolutely terrible. And you know, and we can go round at first. It's a bit of a high at first. You say, oh my God, this is all happening, and it's a bit high, but after a while, you wish you didn't. And unfortunately, you know, that comes with the job with me. But I'm just going to say to people, look, do not trust what you experience. You know, we don't know what we're experiencing for sure. We cannot trust these things through the deception that they can create. And, you know, as it's said in the Bible, test the spirits. You do. It's true, you know, because we're dealing with things which can mimic very, very well. And just be on guard. But and most of all, just you know, though that the world is falling apart all around us, you know, just try and love people, really. And that's the best thing you can do at the times of this. Do not conform to the way the world wants you to be. That's about the best advice I can give.
Awesome. That's some solid advice right there. And it's very moving. But thank you again, Steve. And I'll be in touch shortly. Wow. I can't even tell you how mind blown. And I think the last, you know, every time Steve comes on, he brings it. And I've been watching and had a chance to get in. If you guys have not yet, go over to his YouTube channel, Steve Mera Official. You definitely, between him and excuse me, I'm like, I kind of need to drink of water here. But Nathaniel Gillis are over there together. They partner up. They do, I mean, some amazing stuff. They really do. And it's definitely a fresh perspective on things. It provides, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, whatever, but this is definitely worth testing out. So anyway, I saw in the chat that it was Maya's birthday. Is it Maya's birthday on Monday? So maybe we'll be doing, I know it's coming up. I just was not sure if it was this Monday or not, but if it is, maybe we could just do a little Maya happy birthday special. And I just wanted to thank Blazer. Thank you so much for the super chat. Kurt W75. Thank you so much, Larry. It is greatly appreciated. Benno from Oz. Benno, yes, Benno. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. And I just wanted to say that I'm going to start doing a little, Benno knows because I was trying to hunt him down. I'm going to do with our audience members and people who participate, but maybe not on screen, not through interviews or anything like that. I wanted to go and do a 20-minute to 30-minute Q&A. So if you guys could go to the, and I will leave a post too that has the email address to contact me. I wanted to start off kind of, you know, with the core, but, you know, everybody to send away so I can get you, if this is something you want to do, so I can get you scheduled. So on that note, thank you for taking the journey into the unknown. I'm Coley, also known as Coleyufo, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there. And yeah, I guess that's really all I got there. So good night, guys.
UFOs in the night.